This show furnished by Karl Gerber and Employment Lawyers Group.
You've got to work hard, you've got to work hard. If you want anything
Talk Radio 790 KBC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber. Tonight's Sunday, tomorrow's Monday, and the day that falls is Tuesday. Likewise, today is the 3rd of March, tomorrow 4th of March, which is a command, and the next day that falls is the 5th. Tonight, live in studio, we have a repeat guest, Star Bright. Yes, Star Bright is here. She's married to Chap Shtick, and we're going to, I'm sure, be talking about important issues of employment law because I am a real labor lawyer.
Oh my gosh, Mr. Gerber, can you believe you are on the cover of this week's sanitary? You're wearing elfin ears and clogs?
Star Bright, I had absolutely no idea what you planned to say on this particular episode. The only reason I agreed to have you on was because your voice is so unique and strange.
Oh, I can go higher if you like.
It's okay. We have a sound engineer back there who adjusts the knobs and levers. It would blast his ears. He couldn't adjust all those knobs and levers fast enough.
Why do you have to keep mentioning those things?
We're looking for cheap laughs.
Where did you get the clogs?
I have never worn clogs a day in my life, and it was my co-sysop in the pre-internet world, Moonshine, who wore elfin ears, mostly to social functions for our dial-in bulletin board system.
Wait, I thought that was you on the cover of the sanitary. I'm not sure. Maybe it's Fast Eddie?
Yeah, I'm trying to get away from all of these modem aliases and the general subject matter of SP. A few of the listeners are thoroughly through with the napkins of that variety.
Chap Shtick! Chap Shtick isn't the same old chap anymore. They threw him out in tiny little pieces of camphor, beeswax, menthol, petrolatum, phenol, vitamin E, aloe, and oxybenzone. Pieces too small to even fit into a tiny zipper.
Who's the they?
His employer in the Century Towers, where the most important database of sanitary napkins ever was once contained on a sophisticated network encrypted with Egyptian cotton chamois and 100% cotton Q-tips.
Gosh, when I met Chap Shtick on episode 19, and he told us about the database over at Cyclops Security he maintained on a deserted, environmentally hazardous site, and then he got a better job on episode 20. You told us there was nobody at his level in the exciting new field of sanitary napkin database management. Then on episode 22, we learned he'd taken over the entire floor in a Century City Twin Tower. On episode 30, we learned he was meeting with Kim Jong-un to reunite North and South Korea because he had the database. Then, on one of the long and tedious episodes of this show, we learned Chap Shtick's database was stolen by
the evil Myron Alfombra, pronounced Madding but spelled Eminem.
I've been meaning to ask how exactly Myron Alfombra, pronounced Madding and spelled Eminem, got his hands on that critical database.
The reason I am here, well, the pretextual reason is because Chap Shtick got broken into tiny pieces of... Do I have to repeat all those chemicals?
No!
And they fired him!
He has clearly fallen from grace.
And our apartment over at the mildew-managed building in the Palms caved in. Remember the laundry room on the first floor that sort of became a pancake? Well, the whole building went down a few weeks after I was on your show.
Luckily, my lungs avoided the little doozy you used to live in.
Where are you living now?
We're homeless and living out of the party bus Chap Shtick bought when he was making the big ducks in Century City.
That's dreadful. There might be damages for emotional distress if we can prove this was wrongful termination.
It's not easy watching my husband stand tiny metal dorsals where we once used to line dance in the party bus.
He will.
Chap Shtick should contact me and I can see if he has a case.
Do you do that kind of thing in every script now?
We like to keep the listeners on edge, confused. This isn't a Lifetime movie.
I heard over at the swap meet on Lancashire in North Hollywood, the average listener has an average IQ of over 130 and a less than average waist. But an average size head. They all have hat sizes of 7 or more.
I was sort of wondering, Starbright, what's your hat size?
I am not sure. I'm not sure. Let me look. Hold on. The tag on this women's bowler hat, almost like what the great ball players wear, says I'm wearing a size 5.
That's not possible. A 3 or 4-year-old would be a size 5.
Do you want to see what I can do with my head?
Not very much.
See? Look how much more narrow my head is now.
That's not possible! No one could do that! Why is your head changing shapes?
These are part of my star powers.
Well, I can say this because there was nothing attorney-client privilege about it, but I did get an email from Chap Shtick recently. I responded, but he didn't respond.
He's lost it. All he does all day is sing karaoke songs in the bathroom of the party bus. Only Queen. He pretends he's Freddie Mercury. He bought a glue-on mustache at the Hurt Locker.
Well, is Chap Shtick able to communicate? I mean, other than singing Queen songs?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. He kept singing Fat Bottom Girls when he wanted to talk to me.
You know, I believe we had to measure your butt size in episode 20 when we were furnishing you in Botany 500 sandwich slippers, which had to match the pom-pom on your butt, and we determined your butt size was extra small.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's what I mean. He meant he wanted to talk to me, but he addressed me as a fat bottom girl. What does this mean? Does it mean we should get a black bottom pool? Maybe let a jacubird live underwater?
I'm not sure. Are you
gonna help Chap Shtick or not? The world depends on him.
Now, I don't usually talk to spouses about their spouse's prospective or retrospective legal case. The actual person who has the problem knows the facts. That's who should talk to me.
I heard from somebody who knows somebody who once stood in line in the same line as one of your associate attorneys at the office that you have meals with, a married couple in Bakersfield, and one of them is your client.
Well, there are times when spouses feel the other has to be aware of their legal actions, especially if they involve their career. The spouse who has the legal problems needs to be specifically aware of the fact their spouse could testify against them in civil cases. You know, spouses can take a privilege. They don't have to testify against their spouse.
I'm not sure. What's the real reason you don't want to talk to spouses?
Undue influence by the spouse who doesn't have the legal issue, misinformation, one spouse telling the other spouse something that's not accurate, misunderstanding and misconstruing legal advice, inaccurate and incomplete information about things that matter, the actual client saying, why didn't we discuss that thing when I discussed it with the other spouse?
What thing? We aren't going to talk about scary monkeys, are we?
Oh, come now. The last I heard, your sister Starlight was only speaking if the string on the back of her neck was pulled, but before that, she got her own cymbal monkey act.
Oh, cymbal monkeys are different.
Is that even allowed anymore? Are cymbal monkeys something they should cover on animal radio?
The cymbal monkeys aren't even real. They're robots powered just like an electric autonomous driving car.
Well, that's even weirder. Notwithstanding, I recall being stuck with your sister in 1950 and her trying to get a cymbal monkey act over at Charlie Foy's Supper Club just west of Sepulveda. And those weren't electric bananas. I mean monkeys.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
All right, we're going to find out why Star Bright is here exactly when we come back. Obviously, her husband had the most important database ever, and it may have been stolen by the evil Myron Alfombra, pronounced Manning and spelled M&M. You're listening to Talk Radio 790 KBC on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show.
Have the wish I wish tonight. Starlight, star bright, the first star I see tonight.
You've got to work hard, you've got to work hard. If you want
All right, this is Talk Radio 790 KBC. You're listening to Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber, a real California lawyer. We're talking to Star Bright, the wife of Chap Shtick, who was managing the most important database in the world. It was of every sanitary napkin. I think he got fired from his job. So we're going to continue our conversation with her. All right, Star Bright, can you please have Chap Shtick call me? As you know, I very much like to stop Myron Alfombra, pronounced you know how.
Can you repeat all the strange things about his name just one more time?
No, it's very exhausting.
The damage is already done. Didn't you hear about what happened this week in Vietnam?
I'm not sure. All I heard was Dutch Customs blocked 90,000 bottles of vodka from North Korea.
Mr. Gerber, seriously?
Well, there's a barber in Hanoi offering Kim Jong-un high-rise haircuts and Donald Trump haircuts.
Not in North Korea. There are only 15 approved hairstyles for men in North Korea, and Kim Jong-un's is not one of them.
But as far as I know, there's only one hairdresser in the world who can do the 3-plug cut right.
Please, Mr. Gerber, you must help Chap Shtick. They stole his life. They stole his database.
All right. Let's go ahead and turn off these microphones so no one can hear what we're saying. Under these circumstances, we need to start plotting, conspiring. Wait, do I sound like Molly Machete?
Wasn't she supposed to help you bring down Myron Alfombra, spelled M&M?
Well, this is an odd question, but I have to ask it. If Chap Shtick is made out of camphor, beeswax, methanol, petroleum, phenol, vitamin E, aloha, and oxybenzonol, can he be put back together?
Sure, just swish it together and reform him.
I can form concrete, mortar, even stucco mix with a gloved right hand, but not the kind of glove Cindy D wears when she's dressed up like a dom or anything. You know, I just use a pair of extra large chemical-resistant gloves like they smell as Smart and Final.
Have you heard of Dumb and Incomplete?
Oh, yes.
Really? I thought Starlight was the only star, other than me, who ever heard of Dumb and Incomplete.
Nah, that's where Dumas, the incompetent employment defense lawyer, orders his office supplies. They usually only ship half or a quarter of the order, or they're out of stock of most everything. They might have what you don't need, kind of like a Target on the weekend. I guess Dumb and Incomplete just ships an empty box or something.
I never thought about that. An empty box. Could you put something in the box once it came?
Nah, the box is taped on all the sides. You'd never get the tape off.
Oh, I could. Have you seen my tongue in action?
Oh, there are some things best left to the imagination of the listeners, not mine.
Excuse me, Chap Shtick is calling me.
I didn't hear anything go off.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Was That a fire alarm? No, maybe a dog barking? No, they were playing Killer Queen over at the KLOS side of the studio.
Are you insinuating the DJ over there was getting a telepathic sign from Chap Shtick to call you?
Yes.
Is he there on your phone? This is taking a long time, actually a very long time. A waste of time.
That's, yeah. He's here in my contacts on my phone. Look!
Well, he's your husband. Him being one of your contacts, is that supposed to be an amazing fact?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Look, Starbright, we need to get down to the styrofoam knuckles. This is supposed to be a show about employment law, and we've barely talked about a job termination.
It isn't every day the man who once managed the most important database in the world is subdivided up into tiny pieces of all sorts of chemicals, vitamins, and waxes. It isn't like he's the assistant dope waxer of hellhole palms.
Thank your lucky stars he isn't that, and he never ran for that absurd political office of absolutely no importance.
And you think there's really a purpose in managing the world's largest database of sanitary napkins?
No, I never said that.
Then why was it stolen through corporate espionage? Why is it going to end the evil social and political order of high-rise haircuts? But what if they go for the three-plug look? That would be way worse.
Well, if Chap Shtick still had that database, we wouldn't be here wondering if North Korea was going to adopt that monstrosity of Myron Alfombra pronounced Manning and spelled M&M. Tim Puming away that man's three plugs.
Why can't it just be all about the knobs? And hold on.
Spit it out! I really don't understand why these guests crack up about the K's, the B's, and the levers.
How was the database stolen anyway? We need to start there for me to get the whole legal picture.
I'm not sure. Knobs, levers, I'm not sure.
Where are you taking all the good lines?
That Coke H last week already took all the good lines. There's nothing left this week.
I thought she gave a near Oscar-worthy performance. Listening to her, I was sure it was 1978, just like I remember it.
Well, as I recall, you were supposed to be the older sister that, Star Bright, Star Light, but you think you were born after Starlight, and you were conceived during the Northridge earthquake.
My mother's thing got together with my father's thing in an IVF lab.
And it was the second Northridge earthquake in 1994, so you're barely 24 at this point.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I thought I was older than that.
But you surely weren't alive in 1978, were you?
No, how could I have been? 9/11 made me decide to join the Army.
Oh, you joined the Army after 9/11?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I was in first or second grade. No, maybe nursery school. They held me back a few years. That's when I decided I'd join the Army. See?
Star Bright, you're blinding me. Can you turn that off?
This is how it worked on desert nights. I supplied the illumination for 1,000 troops at a time.
I can't see you shedding a whole lot of illumination on anything.
Try this. Myron Alfombra, pronounced... I'm not sure. How is it pronounced again?
Matting!
Eminem. He infiltrated Chap Shtick's company.
Well, I heard he was actually an employee.
Yes, that's why they can't sue him. There's that over-inclusive binding employment contract that even covers the bathroom artwork. You know, the Liechtenstein of the sanitary napkin and the Brillo Cotexes stacked up. I think Andy Kaufman did those in the early 60s before he worked at Jerry's Deli in Studio City.
Andy Kaufman was quite young in the 60s and was more interested in the birds in Central Park. I don't mean Jacku birds. I believe he worked at Jerry's Deli bussing tables when he was actually on Taxi.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. He wanted to stay real like me.
Right.
Can I ask you a question?
No!
I'm not sure. Where were you born?
Well, how the hell am I supposed to know? I was a baby. Do you think I remember what floor and the curtain rods looked like, let alone whether there was soy mutin or mutton or some tiny dorsal collection in the room?
Oh, I remember. I was in a test tube. Not just one test tube. 1.5. Everything was shaking. Altair was shining and rumbling. Lots of red lights light up. Switches, too. Atari was flickering in death.
Well, this has been a fairly meaningless conversation so far.
Maybe if I could put my finger in the socket over there, things would light up.
Go right ahead. I presume the station is adequately insured. As to me, I pay more for insurance than the national debt. Maybe if I switched to Geico, I'd save tons on car insurance and get better gas.
Chap Shtick should have been there this week. They didn't invite Chap Shtick to the party.
I hate to ask, but what party?
They called it a high end. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Not a discount level nuclear summit.
Oh, that thing. Isn't that fake news?
What the leaders are saying? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Starbright, how's your finger doing after that little episode?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Wait, you do know Myron Alfombra got a job standing in between the drywall and the metal studs on Chap Shtick's floor.
What kind of work can be done in a slightly less than 4-inch wide crevice?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
You know, doing the show for 46 episodes now and the guests I've had, nothing surprises me.
Myron Alfombra, pronounced matting and spelled... I'm not sure. I'm not sure. He used a magnetic charging device to steal the data.
Is that possible?
I am sure. I am sure. Why are you gagging me with a spoon?
One of my guests I had a bunch of episodes back left this giant mixing spoon on the telephone I never used to take live calls.
They fired Myron Alfombra, pronounced Matting and spelled Eminem, for trade secret theft and marked him ineligible for rehire.
I'm kind of thinking he isn't looking to be rehired.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
All right, you're listening to Karl Gerber, Workplace Lawyer Show. We're talking to Star Bright about her husband being fired from a company. And if you have been fired from a company or want to refer someone who has, I can really be located at 877-525-0700 for real legal advice. 877-525-0700. Once again, 877-525-0700 for real wrongful termination lawyer. When we come back, we'll find out how that database got stolen.
You've got to work hard, you've got to work hard. If you
Talk
want
Radio, 790, KBC. You're listening to Karl Gerber, Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber. Hey, if you want to listen to political and social commentaries that are also sketch comedy, you can go to workplacelawyer.org, all one word, or Karl Gerber, that's with a K, on YouTube and listen to some of these old episodes. It would be a good idea. In the meantime, I'd like to get the inflatable noodle man on this show. I wonder if Remus Helms can get him here. So, Starbright, I've heard bits and mashed up pieces of this Myron Alfombra pronounced Matting thing on various episodes of this show. What I don't understand is why he isn't being criminally prosecuted for stealing trade secrets, or at least sued in court for a return of the trade secrets along with damages.
The arbitration agreement, and also another thing.
I understand arbitrators can't issue injunctions and force people to do something, but the court can. An injunction could be obtained regardless of the arbitration agreement.
The arbitration agreement claimed injunctive rights were waived.
Well, that wouldn't be legal. That clause wouldn't be enforced.
The general counsel for the company thinks if he asserts arbitration, the whole agreement will get knocked into Walden's pond.
In order for an arbitration agreement to be knocked into Walden's pond, and not that body of water separating New York from the UK, there have to be multiple unconscionable terms where the employer is trying to assert a bunch of illegal things. At that point, the judge, maybe with a Minotaur headpiece, will rule the intention of the arbitration agreement was to be unconscionable and against the law.
Breaking the law! 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 I'm not sure. I can't stop saying breaking the law. Hey, why did you do that?
You've got to do what you got to do, and I don't think anyone can take you singing those same 3 words another time in that awful high-pitched voice.
Did you hear about this so-called nation emergency?
I've heard about a national emergency no one thinks is a national emergency. Well, maybe a few of one of our talk host listeners.
That man, Myron Alfombra, pronounced matting and spelled M&M, services, his wig thing. That man said on Twitter taking possession of the database was a national emergency. He exercised on the golf course the War Powers Act.
We're talking about the database that tracks every single sanitary napkin use?
Chap Shtick's devotion of love. Don't get me wrong, I fully understand the importance of his work. Just to be married to the man who once maintained the most important database in the world.
I've been warned many times about the difficulty of taking down Myron Alfombra pronounced matting.
If they only used an Oracle-based system, even IBM DB2.
I still don't get how nobody detected Myron Alfombra was hired to work between the metal framing and the drywall, or how it was so easy to steal such an enormous database.
All the metal dorsals. Those metal dorsals.
Well, I fully comprehend that sanding tiny metal dorsals is a leading hobby in these parts, but what do metal dorsals have to do with the horrid data breach?
All of the aluminum and titanium allowed the bounce. Have you ever seen a construction worker reach into the soil, pull out a couple of rotten eggs, and then knead the soil to see if it's Play-Doh-y enough to compact with a jumping jack?
Are you kidding? I do that all the time, minus the rotten eggs.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I thought rotten eggs were always in the soil.
Was Alfombra disguised when he pulled this little caper off?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yes, absolutely. He showed up with a herringbone ever-growing Berber toupee. Actually, nylon. Pretty much a tangerine color. All the male models who work in the Century Towers sported that selection back in January.
You're saying he blended right in there with the office workers at the Twin Towers in Century City?
Oh, yeah. He even drove a 1970 Mercedes Cell, like that director from the 70s abandoned at the airport when he fled.
There are unfortunate occasions when I'm forced to go to a case in Century City. I generally go through a few engines along the way due to the engine idling required for a treacherous trek like that, but I can't say I'm seeing a lot of 1970 Mercedes SELs in the parking lots these days.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Myron Alfombra parked in the valet section in front of the building, the place where there's no daily maximum.
All right, just to get this straight, we've got a man with a herringbone pattern toupee that is made out of a carpet-like material, carpet taxanol. It's the color of the tangerine, and he's driving a nearly 50-year-old Mercedes that he parks in front of the towers at a daily rate more than many people earn, but he's inconspicuously working in less than 4 inches of space between the metal studs and the walls and the drywall, and nobody thought anything of this?
I'm not sure. No, I think it was all pretty normal.
This is ludicrous, this whole story. Who told you this?
Remus Helms.
Remus Helms told you this? I need to send some texts, some emails. I need confirmation from another source.
There's a new fixer in town, and he's got a tampewing.
The only thing that really worries me about this is there's a mad man with a really obnoxious toupee running around with that Tempume vacuum device that's designed to trim the ever-growing Berber toupee that's actually nylon the upwards of 16 times a day.
I'm not sure. I think you should have a lot more concerns.
Well, what's General John Campbell's take on this? I know the database was his little baby he nurtured for years with good old Chap Shtick managing it.
I'm not sure. I think he is the chairman of the board of Systematic Inc., the leading provider of C41 solutions after he retired from the Army. Gosh, I wish I was doing that well after my honorable discharge from the Army.
Well, C41, sure, chemicals for rollers on Kodak products.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Contracting licenses jump from the C39 for roofers to the C42 for sanitation system workers. Why are there missing numbers for license classifications for license contracts in the state of California? Did those license classifications get eaten by terror birds? Which is bigger, an ostrich or a terror bird?
Well, actually, C41 relates to long-range satellite communications. Oh, that's C4I.
C14 stands for China Airlines. What's the 44?
It is very important that the listeners understand the difference between a C41 chemical for Kodak rollers, the C4I, and the CI4.
Mr. Gerber, everybody knows that the C41 is the little black heart-shaped pill for Ed, C14 is the green goose-shaped pill for sleep, and the C41 is the Gambaji mustard Chap Shtick put on his best metal dorsals.
Well, can we avoid a discussion about how those pills and the Gambogi mustard interact with the pina?
I'm not sure. Oh, they restore your natural hearing.
B-I-N-G-O, B-I-N-G-O, and bingo was her name-o.
Why did they fire Chap Shtick over this?
Perhaps negligence in allowing this charade, the fact there wasn't a database to manage anymore. Perhaps the fact the database was no longer a trade secret because it was stolen.
Why do you think North Korea is really on the road to denuclearization?
I'm not sure. Maybe they aren't. There's something wrong with the whole scenario.
Mr. Gerber, what is the point of a nuclear bomb if you have the database of every single sanitary napkin ever used? Where it was used, when it was used, and who used it?
It's completely useless information. How could a national emergency be declared to perform some sort of eminent domain to capture this worthless compilation of information?
Are you insulting, Chap? You, of all people? Do you even know how much Remus Helms admires you?
No disrespect to Remus Helms or anything, but this is a man who made his fortune off his penis being infringed.
I knew you got him $200.1 million on that case. See, you do know intellectual property law. You know about trade secrets.
I was most certainly not involved in that settlement. The only problem with all of this, which seems absolutely ridiculous, total nonsense, the database was stolen, and it is as important as Starbright claims. Oh my God, we're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. This is a serious subject matter about trade secret theft, and the guy who's managing it is fired for it, but there's no database to manage, and this database is so important, a national emergency was declared to take possession of it. Oh my God. Call me about a less serious matter like a termination of a job or unpaid wages at 877-525-0700. If you have a serious case for unpaid wages, 877-525-0700, or a wrongful termination case that involves matters of national importance, I've been there too, 877-525-0700. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KBC.
I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight.
You've got to work hard if you want.
Talk Radio 790 KBC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber, a real workplace lawyer in California. We're chronicling this theft of this very important database that chronicles every sanitary napkin in the world. And that is something that Chap Shtick was diligently maintaining. And I encourage you to catch up on old episodes at workplacelawyer.org, all one word, or YouTube Karl Gerber, where you can also live stream these episodes and listen to them if you're driving across country. Tonight we have in the studio Star Bright. And I was just talking offline. I'd like to get the Noodle Man in this show.
Oh my gosh, he's so cute.
Is there anything else you have to say, Star Bright?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Do you think Congress can get the database back?
Maybe.
Could we start lobbying?
Oh, there's no need. As I understand things, some of the highest paid lobbyists in Washington are already on the job.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Racist, liar, con man might go to jail. Then the database would go back to Chap Shtick.
I suspect there's something wrong with what Alfombra got his tempuming hands on.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Do you think that's why the meeting ended so abruptly this week?
I'm not sure. We should be discussing this on radio.
Maybe I could come over to your Sherman Oaks office. I could stay in the conference room for a while. My marsupial could drink out of the janitor's sink in the closet. We could carry on this discussion over at your office over marmalade and liver pate.
Nah, I think we're good discussing this here.
I'm not sure. We'd have more privacy, and if you need any steel beams fixed anywhere around the office, I could brace and repair.
Did you ever go out for the welders union?
The last few months have been a whirlpool wind.
Oh, I bet they have been. Would it be possible for me to see any of the code from this database?
Sure. I just happen to have a billion yottabyte stick in my saddleback here.
Do you have a horse or motorcycle in here?
I'm not sure.
Well, Starbright, is there any way that we can compare this extremely large amount of data to what Alfombra stole? Wait a minute. Chap Shtick shouldn't have taken this from the workplace. He could be sued big time for taking trade secrets with him. A cross-complaint if he files for wrongful termination.
I got in underneath the low pile carpet at the office and did this data dump.
Well, I suppose this is all attorney-client privilege.
I can get you the data Myron Alfombra pronounced Madding and spelled M&M stole. I've got it right here in this old reel-to-reel film case.
Oh, wow, that's a big metal canister with lots of rust and maybe little particles of gunpowder inside.
No worries. I cleaned out all the old chemicals with my tongue. Even with 13 3/4, it only took 8.1 seconds. It's big enough to store a 6-month supply of hamster pellets in this big old film reel of my sister's conception video over at Radio Shack.
Starbright, there's a floppy disk inside this canister. It's an 8-incher.
That's the same format Myron Alfombra pronounced Matting took the data on?
I happen to know there's a maximum storage capacity of 80 kilobytes on this ancient floppy disk, probably from 76 to maybe the late 70s. Who even has a computer that reads these anymore?
Actually, this disk holds 500.5 kilobytes.
Well, that's maybe 20 of these weekly scripts. Even so, that's about a half a megabyte, which is about 1/5,000th of a gigabyte. What could possibly be on this thing?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
If you turn the 8-inch floppy over to me, I'll contact a few modem studs and see if we can get a machine to open up this file. I might have to call in Moonshine to examine the data.
We're bringing in the heavy guns. The chief of computational pathology at Harvard Hospital. Do you think the Lemur brothers might even reunite for this?
I'll have to get back to you once I examine the data. I suspect Myron Alfombra, pronounced Manning and spelled M&M, has less than a full head of hair.
I'm not sure. I don't know if he needs a toupee. I think he sported the tangerine herringbone model for disguise purposes.
What's this thing on the floppy disk sticker where it says name? Is racist, liar, con man somebody's name?
I'm not sure. I think so.
You know, I need to disentangle myself from this one.
I want my husband back. I want my husband back on the couch sanding metal dorsals.
These job terminations can ruin someone's psychic, but maybe you've heard about, work addiction. Many people believe Americans are addicted to work. A report came out this week about how Americans expect too much out of work. They need other purposes in life.
You don't think Chap Shtick can sue for wrongful determination?
Well, it's wrongful termination, first of all. And my opinion on that is if he complained about something illegal or objected to an illegal practice, he can sue for wrongful termination. But circumstances here sound like there were good reasons for firing him.
Maybe now would be a good time to sue Mildew Management for taking all those rent credits from me.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case, but I didn't hear from you after you appeared on episode 20.
We were flying to Pyongyang celebrating the day after Thanksgiving with the Rockefellers and sitting front row at the Devo concert over at the Starwood. Do you really think I had time to call you?
It would have been the least you could have done after I helped your sister, Starlight, get back into Remus Helms's good graces when I resurrected his daughter, Hanita Orchid Helms, back to life after she died of a case of death by boredom in the workplace over at episode 28 of this show.
I went to workplacelawyer.org, all one word except the period between workplacelawyer and org. I heard all those old episodes. What else do I have to do these days living in the party bus and listening to Chap Shtick sing Queen songs from the bathroom?
Well, I fully understand your position. Maybe you heard I'm sticking around the studio until midnight where I'll be appearing on Stan Katzner's show. So what's your problem? I'm going to bring up the quality of the guests Remus Helms and Friend Lyons has been furnishing me.
I'm not sure. Maybe you should also bring up the quality of these scripts.
Why? I write them.
I was just thinking you could give me more glamorous lines. After all, I am standing by the man who once managed the most important database in the world.
Look, I can't make this a show for has-beens. I know that format's kind of popular in some of these talk radio stations. Not this station, of course, but if you're on the decline, I've got
Wet your pants.
What? Where does this stuff come from?
I'm not sure. Urea, together with water and other waste substances, forms the urine as it passes through the nephrons and down the renal tubules of the kidney.
Sorry, but this isn't a scientific show.
I'm I'm not sure. I thought adding health information would help your ratings.
Well, a healthy workforce leads to a healthy employer.
Can you at least call in the soldier from episode 30 to protect you until you have examined the data Alfombra stole?
I'm not concerned. I've been leading a concrete crew for some weeks now, and besides, I still know all the lemur lunges. I'll be comparing the massive data on your stick to what Alfombra got his tempuming hands on any day now. All right, folks, you've just heard an episode of the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. We've talked about wrongful termination, we've talked about trade secrets, and we've talked about absurdity, because the truth is most of these lawsuits with employees involve completely absurd facts. The employer is acting somewhat absurdly, so is the employee, and people are very concerned protecting things that, quite frankly, have absolutely no meaning to the rest of us, like this stupid database. So if you've got a real workplace problem, I do want to hear from you. I can be reached at 877-525-0700. I have something like 10 offices from Bakersfield down, and I'd like to hear from you at 877-525-0700. If you've got a rent credit issue, your employer's overcharging you, that's 877-525-0700. Stick around till midnight. I really will be appearing on So What's Your Problem on this station. Talk Radio 790 KBC. I'll hear back from you next week. Thanks for listening.
This show furnished by Karl Gerber and Employment Lawyers Group.